Namo Buddhaya. In a world brimming with relentless noise, endless comparisons, and towering expectations, self-doubt lurks like a shadow, threatening to shroud our true potential. The voice of doubt, soft but persistent, questions our worth, whispering, "You can't do this, you're not enough, and why even try?" For many, this internal critic can feel insurmountable. But here's a radical truth. Self-doubt is not a reflection of your reality. It is a story, and every story can be rewritten. Imagine a life where your inner critic transforms into a gentle guide, encouraging you to step forward, embrace challenges, and celebrate growth. Through the lens of Buddhist teachings, this transformation is not only possible but accessible to anyone willing to embark on the journey. This is your opportunity to not just silence self-doubt, but to dismantle it entirely, replacing it with unshakable confidence and purpose. This guide dives deep into 7 powerful lessons inspired by Buddhism, meticulously designed to help you reframe your thoughts, embrace imperfections, and regain control over your narrative. Each lesson is not just a concept, but a practice, a way of living that can reshape your relationship with yourself. Let's begin with a transformative step, learning to see the inner critic not as an enemy, but as an opportunity for growth. Lesson 1. Reframing the inner critic. The nature of thoughts in Buddhism. Buddhism teaches that thoughts are impermanent, arising and passing away like waves in the ocean or clouds in the sky. They are not fixed realities, nor do they define our true self. This principle is key to understanding the inner critic, that persistent voice of self-doubt and negativity that often sabotages our confidence. Your inner critic is not a reflection of who you are, but a collection of conditioned beliefs shaped by past experiences, societal expectations, and personal fears. The first step in overcoming self-doubt is to recognize that these thoughts are not truths. They are simply mental formations. What is the inner critic? The inner critic is the internalized voice of doubt, fear, and criticism. It may say things like, "You're not good enough. You always fail. Why even bother trying?" These messages can feel overwhelming, but they are not inherently true. In fact, they often stem from a survival mechanism designed to protect us from failure or rejection. By reframing the inner critic, we can transform it from an adversary into an ally. Buddhist perspective on self-talk. In Buddhist teachings, the mind is seen as a powerful tool that can either liberate or entrap us. Negative self-talk, if left unchecked, can trap us in cycles of self-doubt and stagnation. However, through mindfulness and compassionate inquiry, we can reshape our internal dialogue. The Buddha often taught about the 2 arrows of suffering. The first arrow is the inevitable pain or challenge we face. The second arrow is the self-inflicted suffering caused by our reaction to the challenge, our self-critical thoughts. By reframing the inner critic, we avoid shooting ourselves with the second arrow. Compassionate inquiry. A key to reframing. Instead of fighting the inner critic or suppressing negative thoughts, Buddhism encourages us to approach them with compassion and curiosity. Imagine your inner critic as a worried friend who is trying, albeit clumsily, to protect you. Engage with it gently by asking, "Is this thought true? What evidence supports or contradicts this belief? How would I respond if a friend said this about themselves?" Practical techniques to reframe the inner critic. 1. Mindful observation. Mindfulness helps you notice your inner critic without becoming entangled in its narrative. When a critical thought arises, observe it as if you're watching a cloud drift by. Name the thought. This is my fear of failure. Let it pass without judgment. By detaching from the thought, you reduce its emotional charge. 2. Turn criticism into curiosity. Transform self-criticism into open-ended questions that encourage growth. For example, instead of, "I'm terrible at this," ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of, "I'll never succeed," ask, "What steps can I take to improve?" This shift from judgment to inquiry opens the door to possibilities. 3. Reframe negative beliefs. Reframing involves replacing a negative thought with a more empowering one. For example, negative thought, "I can't do this." Reframed thought, "What if I try and learn along the way?" Reframing doesn't ignore challenges, but reframes them as opportunities for growth. Real-life example: transforming the inner critic. Sarah, a young professional, often heard her inner critic saying, "You're not smart enough to succeed in your career." This belief held her back from pursuing promotions or leadership roles. Through Buddhist practices, she began to challenge this thought. She identified the belief's origin, a teacher's harsh criticism during childhood. She reframed the thought. "I've learned so much since then. I can continue to grow and succeed." She practiced self-compassion, reminding herself that everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Over time, Sarah's inner dialogue shifted, and she confidently applied for and secured a leadership role. The role of self-compassion. Reframing the inner critic requires self-compassion, a cornerstone of Buddhist practice. When you approach your inner critic with kindness, you transform its harsh voice into one of support. Instead of silencing the critic, you learn to dialogue with it constructively. Example: the athlete's journey. James, a marathon runner, struggled with thoughts like, "You're too slow to compete." Instead of suppressing this voice, he responded compassionately, "It's okay to feel uncertain, but I'm improving with every run." This mindset not only eased his self-doubt, but also enhanced his performance. The science behind reframing. Modern psychology supports the Buddhist approach to reframing. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, identifies negative self-talk as a cognitive distortion. By challenging and reframing these thoughts, individuals can reduce anxiety, build resilience, and improve self-esteem. Reframing through meditation. Meditation is a powerful tool for reframing the inner critic. A simple practice involves sitting in a quiet space and focusing on your breath. When a critical thought arises, acknowledge it without judgment. Replace the thought with a compassionate affirmation like, "I am enough." This practice helps train your mind to respond to negativity with kindness. Empowering affirmations. Daily affirmations can help reprogram your inner dialogue. Examples include, "I am capable of growth and change." "I deserve compassion, not criticism." "Mistakes are part of learning." The ripple effect of reframing. As you reframe your inner critic, you begin to see challenges as opportunities and failures as lessons. This shift not only quiets self-doubt, but also fosters resilience, creativity, and confidence. Real-life story: the artist's confidence. Maya, an aspiring artist, feared sharing her work, thinking, "It's not good enough." By reframing this thought to, "My art is a reflection of my unique perspective," she found the courage to showcase her paintings. Her self-doubt transformed into pride, inspiring others to pursue their passions. Reframing as a lifelong practice. Reframing the inner critic is not a one-time fix, but a lifelong journey. Each time you challenge and rewrite a negative thought, you strengthen your ability to face future challenges with confidence and grace. By approaching your inner critic with compassion and curiosity, you reclaim your narrative, replacing doubt with self-belief. As Buddhist teachings remind us, the mind is both the source of our struggles and the key to our liberation. Lesson 2. The power of small, consistent actions breaking down. Overwhelm. One of the greatest contributors to self-doubt is the perception of a task being insurmountable. When we look at a large goal, a new career path, starting a business, or improving personal relationships, it can feel like climbing a mountain. This overwhelming feeling often paralyzes us, causing procrastination or avoidance. Buddhist teachings, particularly those related to right effort, remind us that success is not a singular leap but a series of intentional steps. Right effort encourages steady, mindful progress without attachment to immediate outcomes. Why small steps matter. Consider the act of building a wall. If you focus solely on the entire wall, you may feel overwhelmed by its magnitude. But if you focus on laying each brick as perfectly as possible, brick by brick, the wall will eventually take shape. Similarly, tackling a goal in smaller segments reduces the fear of failure and builds momentum. Real-life example: the writer's journey. Take Sarah, an aspiring author who dreamed of writing a novel but felt stuck staring at a blank page. Instead of pressuring herself to write an entire chapter, she committed to writing 200 words daily. Each day, her small actions compounded into progress. Over 6 months, those 200 daily words turned into a completed draft. More importantly, the consistency boosted her confidence, replacing self-doubt with evidence of her capability. Buddhist insight: consistency over perfection. In Buddhism, perfection is an illusion, and clinging to it only deepens suffering. Instead, the focus is on the process, not the outcome. When you approach tasks with mindfulness, even small actions become meaningful. Practical steps for small, consistent actions. Set micro goals. Break large tasks into smaller, actionable steps. For example, if you want to improve your health, start with a 10-minute daily walk instead of a rigorous exercise routine. Celebrate small wins. Acknowledge each completed step. This reinforces positive behavior and builds momentum. Create a ritual. Attach small actions to a habit you already have. For instance, journal for 5 minutes after your morning coffee. By focusing on small, consistent actions, you slowly dismantle self-doubt, building a foundation of confidence and resilience. Lesson 3. Stop comparing yourself to others. The comparison trap. Comparison is a thief of joy and a builder of self-doubt. It's easy to measure your progress against others, especially in the age of social media, where people present curated highlights of their lives. However, Buddhist teachings emphasize that everyone's journey is unique and incomparable. Understanding your Dharma. In Buddhism, Dharma refers to one's personal path or purpose. Each person's Dharma is shaped by their karma, experiences, and lessons to learn in this lifetime. Comparing your Dharma to someone else's is like comparing apples to oranges. It's irrelevant because they are inherently different. Illustrative example. Imagine 2 runners in a marathon. One is a seasoned athlete. The other is running their first race. If the novice compares their pace to the experienced runner, they may feel discouraged. However, their goals are different. The novice's focus is on completing the race, not winning it. Similarly, your progress is meaningful in the context of your journey, not someone else's. Practical strategies to avoid comparison shift focus. Inward. Instead of measuring yourself against others, track your own progress. Reflect on how far you've come and what you've achieved. Gratitude. Practice. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for in your journey. This helps you appreciate your unique path. Reduce exposure. Limit time spent on social media or other platforms that trigger comparison. Use that time to focus on your growth. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you free yourself to embrace your individuality and build authentic confidence. Lesson 4. Embrace imperfections. Understanding the beauty of imperfection. In a world obsessed with perfection, self-doubt often thrives when we perceive ourselves as falling short. However, Buddhist teachings, along with the philosophy of wabi-sabi, invite us to view imperfections as a natural and beautiful part of life. The cracks in our character, much like the cracks in a piece of pottery, tell a story of resilience, growth, and humanity. The illusion of perfection. Perfection is an unattainable ideal. In Buddhism, clinging to illusions like perfection is considered a source of suffering. This attachment creates a never-ending cycle of striving and self-judgment, because no matter how much we achieve, there's always room for improvement. Real-life example: the potter's tale. A master potter in Japan once crafted a bowl that cracked during firing. Instead of discarding it, he filled the crack with gold, a practice known as kintsugi. The repaired bowl became more beautiful and valuable because its imperfection told a story of endurance and transformation. Similarly, our flaws and scars are part of what makes us unique. Buddhist perspective: impermanence and imperfection. The concept of anicca, or impermanence, in Buddhism teaches that everything in life is transient. This impermanence extends to our flaws and mistakes. They are not permanent marks on our character, but moments of growth and learning. Embracing imperfection is a way of accepting the natural flow of life. Practical steps to embrace imperfections. 1. Reframe flaws as strengths. Instead of viewing imperfections as weaknesses, see them as markers of your unique journey. For example, a scar might symbolize healing and survival. A mistake might represent a valuable lesson learned. 2. Shift your language. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself about your imperfections. Replace critical statements like, "I'm so bad at this," with compassionate ones like, "I'm learning and growing." Practice gratitude for imperfections. Each evening, write down one thing you learned from a mistake or imperfection during the day. Reflect on how it has contributed to your personal growth. Embrace the journey, not the destination. When you focus on progress over perfection, you free yourself from the unrealistic expectation of flawlessness. This shift allows you to celebrate your efforts and achievements, no matter how small. Example: learning a new skill. Emma wanted to learn calligraphy, but became frustrated with her uneven strokes. Instead of giving up, she reminded herself that mastery comes with time and practice. Each imperfect stroke became a step toward improvement, and she eventually created beautiful works of art. Imperfection connects us to others. Embracing your imperfections can also deepen your relationships. When you're open about your flaws, you create space for authenticity and vulnerability, which strengthens connections with others. Story: the speaker's breakthrough. John, a motivational speaker, often shared stories of his failures and insecurities during his talks. Instead of hiding his imperfections, he used them to connect with his audience, showing them that they weren't alone in their struggles. This vulnerability made his speeches more impactful and memorable. Living authentically. By embracing imperfection, you step into a life of authenticity. You learn to see yourself as whole, even with flaws, and to extend that same compassion to others. This practice quiets self-doubt and opens the door to greater self-acceptance and fulfillment. Lesson 5. Taking action. Despite fear. Fear as a natural part of life. Fear is a universal emotion that often accompanies uncertainty, risk, and growth. In Buddhism, fear is seen as a mental formation, a temporary state that arises in the mind. The key is not to eliminate fear, but to understand and move through it. The Buddha's encounter with fear. During his journey to enlightenment, Siddhartha Gautama faced Mara, the personification of fear and doubt. Mara's army tried to intimidate him, but instead of running away, the Buddha acknowledged their presence, saying, "I see you, Mara." This recognition diffused their power, allowing the Buddha to remain steadfast. Similarly, acknowledging fear is the first step in overcoming it. Why fear fuels self-doubt. Fear often whispers lies like, "You're not ready," or "You'll fail," paralyzing us before we even try. However, action is the antidote to fear. Each small step forward builds confidence and dismantles the grip of self-doubt. Real-life example, the public speaker. Maria, an aspiring public speaker, was terrified of addressing an audience. Her fear told her she would embarrass herself. Instead of avoiding the stage, she started by practicing in front of a mirror, then a small group of friends. Each step helped her build confidence, and she eventually delivered a keynote speech to hundreds of people. Buddhist teachings on courage. In Buddhism, courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Fear arises from attachment to outcomes or aversion to failure. By letting go of these attachments, you can move forward with clarity and purpose. Practical steps to act despite fear. 1. Acknowledge fear without judgment. When fear arises, name it. I feel scared, and that's okay. By acknowledging fear, you reduce its power over you. 2. Focus on the present moment. Fear often stems from imagining worst-case scenarios. Mindfulness grounds you in the present, where action is possible. Practice deep breathing or meditation to center yourself before taking a step forward. 3. Start small. Break your goal into manageable steps. For instance, if you fear networking, start by introducing yourself to one person at an event. If you fear starting a new project, begin with a simple outline or plan. 4. Reframe mistakes. Buddhism teaches that mistakes are opportunities for growth, not proof of inadequacy. Instead of fearing failure, view it as a stepping stone to success. The role of purpose in overcoming fear. Having a clear sense of purpose can help you act despite fear. Ask yourself, why is this goal important to me? What do I stand to gain by moving forward? Example, the mountain climber Raj, an avid hiker, dreamed of climbing a challenging peak but feared the dangers. By focusing on his purpose, testing his limits and experiencing the beauty of nature, he found the courage to train and eventually achieve his goal. The ripple effect of courage. Each act of courage, no matter how small, creates a ripple effect. As you face your fears, you build resilience and confidence, which can inspire others to do the same. Story: The Fearless Teacher. Ms. Lin, a teacher, shared her fear of public speaking with her students, demonstrating how she overcame it. Her vulnerability inspired her students to face their own fears, creating a culture of courage in her classroom. fear as a guide. Instead of seeing fear as an enemy, view it as a guide. Fear often points to areas where you can grow and expand your comfort zone. By stepping into fear, you uncover hidden strengths and possibilities. Practical reflection. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? How can I use this fear as a tool for growth? Transforming fear into action. By acting despite fear, you reclaim your power and take control of your narrative. Each step forward, no matter how small, builds a foundation of confidence and self-belief. Over time, fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a companion on your journey of growth and self-discovery. Lesson 6. Cultivating self-compassion. Understanding self-compassion in Buddhism. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of metta, loving kindness, is a cornerstone for developing compassion. However, many people find it easier to extend kindness to others than to themselves. Self-compassion is about embracing the same gentle care and understanding toward yourself that you would offer to a dear friend or loved one. The Buddha's teachings emphasize that suffering is universal. Everyone makes mistakes, experiences failures, and feels self-doubt. Self-compassion begins with recognizing this shared humanity. Instead of judging yourself harshly for your shortcomings, you acknowledge them as a natural part of the human experience. Why self-compassion is transformative. When self-doubt arises, it often triggers a cascade of negative self-talk, reinforcing feelings of inadequacy. Practicing self-compassion interrupts this cycle. It transforms self-criticism into support and self-judgment into growth. Studies in psychology echo Buddhist teachings, showing that self-compassion enhances emotional resilience, reduces stress, and fosters a stronger sense of self-worth. Example: the athlete's story. Consider Maria, a marathon runner. After missing her personal best time in a major race, her initial reaction was harsh self-criticism. I'm not good enough. Why even try? Recognizing her inner critic, Maria applied Buddhist principles of compassion. She reminded herself of the effort she put in and reframed the situation. This was a tough race, and I learned so much about my stamina. I'll use this experience to train better next time. This shift not only eased her disappointment, but reignited her motivation. Practical exercises to cultivate self-compassion. 1. Mindful self-awareness. Buddhism teaches the importance of mindfulness, observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. When negative self-talk arises, pause and acknowledge it. For example, notice the thought, I'm failing. Reframe it, I'm learning from this experience. Mindful observation helps you create space between your thoughts and your identity, allowing room for compassion. 2. Self-compassion meditation. Incorporate a daily practice of metta meditation focused on yourself. Sit quietly and repeat phrases such as, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free from suffering. Over time, this practice fosters a deep sense of kindness and care for yourself. 3. Journaling for self-kindness. Each evening, journal about a moment in your day when you felt self-critical. Reflect on how you might rewrite that moment with compassion. For instance, original thought, I messed up that presentation. Compassionate rewrite, it's okay to make mistakes. Next time, I'll prepare differently. 4. Developing a self-compassion toolkit. Create a personal toolkit of affirmations, comforting activities, or supportive habits that you can turn to during moments of self-doubt. Examples include listening to calming music, walking in nature, reading affirmations aloud, the role of forgiveness in self-compassion. Forgiving yourself is a crucial step in letting go of self-doubt. In Buddhism, forgiveness is about releasing attachment to past mistakes and seeing them as opportunities for growth. This mindset creates space for healing and progress. Example: letting go of past failures. AJ, an entrepreneur, struggled with guilt over a failed business venture. Through Buddhist-inspired reflection, he began to see the failure as a valuable lesson. That experience taught me resilience and the importance of market research, he realized. By forgiving himself, AJ not only alleviated his self-doubt, but also gained the confidence to start a new business. The lifelong practice of self-compassion. Self-compassion is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing practice. Over time, it becomes a habit, a natural response to moments of doubt or difficulty. Each act of kindness toward yourself strengthens the foundation of inner peace and confidence, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with grace. Lesson 7. Rewrite your narrative. Understanding the stories we tell ourselves. Buddhist teachings emphasize that our identity is not fixed but shaped by our thoughts, actions, and beliefs. The narratives we internalize, often from childhood experiences, societal expectations, or past failures, play a significant role in how we perceive ourselves. Many of these stories are limiting. I'm not good at public speaking. I'll never be successful. I always mess things up. These thoughts are not truths, but conditioned beliefs. Buddhism reminds us that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness behind them. This awareness gives us the power to challenge and rewrite these narratives. The importance of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the first step in rewriting your narrative. By observing your thoughts without attachment, you can identify patterns of self-doubt and begin to deconstruct them. Example: the student's transformation. Anna, a university student, believed she was terrible at math because of one bad grade in high school. Through mindfulness practices, she noticed this belief surfacing whenever she faced a challenging math problem. She began questioning its validity. Is this belief based on fact, or is it an assumption? Over time, she reframed her story to, "Math is challenging, but I can improve with practice." This simple shift empowered her to seek help and excel in her studies. Practical steps to rewrite your narrative. 1. Recognize limiting beliefs. Identify the stories you tell yourself that fuel self-doubt. Write them down, then analyze their origin. Ask, is this belief based on evidence? Does this thought serve my growth? 2. Reframe your perspective. Challenge negative narratives by replacing them with empowering alternatives. For example, negative thought, I'm not creative. Reframed narrative, creativity is a skill I can develop with effort. 3. Set goals. Aligned with your new story, Buddhism teaches the principle of right intention, aligning your actions with your highest aspirations. To reinforce your new narrative, set small, achievable goals. For instance, if your story is, I am capable of learning new skills, take a course or start a hobby that supports this belief. 4. Practice gratitude for your journey. Gratitude is a powerful tool for rewriting your story. Reflect on your achievements, no matter how small, and recognize the progress you've made. Gratitude shifts your focus from limitations to possibilities, letting go of the past. Many limiting beliefs stem from past experiences. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of letting go of attachments to the past. This doesn't mean ignoring what happened, but reframing it as a source of wisdom. Historical context. The Buddha's example. Before enlightenment, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, lived as a prince shielded from suffering. When he encountered the realities of sickness, old age, and death, he could have been paralyzed by despair. Instead, he used these experiences as catalysts for seeking wisdom and compassion. This transformation illustrates the power of reframing the past. Embrace your role as the author. Ultimately, rewriting your narrative is about taking ownership of your story. You are not defined by your circumstances, past mistakes, or societal labels. Each moment offers a fresh page on which you can write a new chapter. Real-life example: the artist's awakening. David, a middle-aged man, long believed he wasn't cut out for art because of a teacher's criticism in childhood. Decades later, he began sketching as a hobby and found immense joy in the process. By reframing his story, art is about expression, not perfection. He not only rediscovered his passion, but also built confidence in other areas of his life. The freedom to rewrite. Rewriting your narrative is not about erasing challenges or struggles, but embracing your ability to grow and adapt. Each day is an opportunity to craft a story rooted in resilience, courage, and self-belief. As Buddhist teachings remind us, transformation begins with awareness and intention. With these tools, you can step into a life of purpose and possibility, free from the constraints of self-doubt.